Hello and welcome to this episode of RPGGamer Top 5s, and this time we're going to do the top 5 RPGs on the original Xbox. The Xbox was the first installment in the Xbox series of consoles manufactured by Microsoft, and was released as their first foray into the gaming console market on November the 15th, 2001 in North America, followed by Australia, Europe and Japan in 2002. It is classified as a 6th generation console, competing with Sony's PlayStation 2 and Nintendo's GameCube. It was also the first console produced by an American company since the Atari Jaguar ceased production in 1996. Announced in 2000, the Xbox was graphically powerful compared to its rivals, featuring a 733MHz Intel Pentium 3 processor, a processor that could be found on a standard PC. It was also noted for its PC-like size and weight, and it was the first console to feature a built-in hard disk. In November 2002, Microsoft launched Xbox Live, a fee-based online gaming service that enabled subscribers to download new content and connect with other players through a broadband connection. Unlike online services from Sega and Sony, Xbox Live had support in the original console design through an integrated Ethernet port. The service gave Microsoft an early foothold in online gaming and would help the Xbox become a competitor in the 6th generation of consoles. The popularity of blockbuster titles such as Bungie's Halo 2 contributed to the popularity of online console gaming, and in particular first-person shooters. The Xbox had a record-breaking launch in North America, selling 1.5 million units before the end of 2001, aided by the popularity of one of the system's launch titles, Halo Combat Evolved, which sold 1 million units by April 2002. The system went on to sell a worldwide total of 24 million units, including 16 million in North America alone. However, Microsoft was unable to make a steady profit off the console, which had a manufacturing price far more expensive than its retail price. Despite its popularity, the Xbox lost Microsoft over $4 billion during its market life. The system outsold the Nintendo GameCube and the Sega Dreamcast, but was vastly outsold by the PlayStation 2, which had sold over 100 million units by the system's discontinuation in 2005. It was also underperformed outside of the Western market, particularly it sold poorly in Japan, due to its large console size and overabundance of games marketed towards American audience, as opposed to Japanese-developed titles. Production of the system was discontinued in 2005, with Microsoft fully ceasing out-of-warranty support in 2009, and ending Xbox Live support for the system in 2010. The Xbox was followed by a successor, the Xbox 360, which launched in 2005, followed itself by the Xbox One in 2013. But enough with the history lesson, and on with the countdown, which was once again being voted on in an online poll, but more on that later. And number 5, Jade Empire by BioWare in 2005, with 32 votes. A surprise entry for us, as we loved the game, but didn't know that it was widely liked, as we never heard anyone else talking about it. An action RPG set in a world based on Chinese mythology. Players control the last surviving spirit monk on a quest to save their tutor, Master Li, and defeat the forces of corrupt Emperor Sun Hai. The Spirit Monk is guided through a linear narrative, completing quests and engaging in action-based combat. With morality-based dialogue choices during conversations, the player can impact both story and gameplay progression in various ways. Combat takes place in real time, with the protagonist and a chosen follower fighting enemies either individually or in groups. Enemies range in type from normal humans to monsters and spirits, and attacks are divided into normal, heavy attacks which take longer to execute while dealing higher damage, and area attacks which damage multiple surrounding enemies. In addition to blocking, the protagonist and enemies can dodge attacks. The protagonist has access to different techniques, which range from purely offensive or guard-breaking techniques to healing and buffing techniques. Some fighting styles are hand-to-hand, while others are tied to a weapon type. In 2010, the game was included in the book 1001 Video Games You Must Play Before You Die. And in a 2015 article, Mike Williams of US Gamer said, Jade Empire was such a unique game for BioWare, but it's one the studio had never followed up on. And at number 4, Baldurs Gate Dark Alliance and Baldurs Gate Dark Alliance 2 by Black Isle Studios in 2001 and 2004, with 48 votes. Baldurs Gate Dark Alliance is an action role-playing, hack-and-slash game developed by Snowblind Studios for the Xbox and PlayStation 2, and later converted to the Nintendo GameCube and Game Boy Advance. The game is set in the Forgotten Realms campaign setting of Dungeons & Dragons, and the gameplay is based on the rules of Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition, which was released in the year 2000. It was the first video game to implement the real-time application of the new rule set, and it was also the first game in the Baldurs Gate series to be released on consoles as opposed to PC and Mac. The game begins with Varn, Adriana and Cromlech arriving in Baldurs Gate, whereupon they are attacked by a group of thieves led by Khan. The thieves are about to kill the trio when they are interrupted by the City Watch, who take the newcomers to the nearby Elf Song Tavern to recover. There, the bartender, Alith Elindra, assists them in earning some money by giving them the job of clearing the tavern's cellar of rats, and the inglorious start to the hero's adventures, which leads them onwards to the foreboding Onyx Tower and a confrontation with Eldrith the Betrayer within. The sequel was only released on the Xbox and PlayStation 2, and follows on showing the protagonist of the first game taken captive by the vampire Morduk, and the game then follows the adventures of new protagonists Dawn, Vehedra, Yusuran, Borodor and Alessia, and sees the city of Baldur's Gate transformed into Morduk's Gate, and its inhabitants turned into zombies. And the game ends on a cliffhanger which was never resolved. And at number 3, The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, by Bethesda Softworks in 2002, with 76 votes. Okay, we've got an admission to make before we talk about this amazing game. When I thought about going over to using votes than my arbitrary decisions for these rundowns, I thought it would help make compiling these lists easier and less controversial. However, the fact that I don't want to have the sequels of games filling these lists means that I either have to ignore the sequels, or the originals if they got a higher number of votes, or I add all the votes together and get a result for that series of games, which is what I've been doing. But this means we get results like today's poll, where this game, the number 3 on the list, actually got the most votes of any single game, and is only beaten by the other games because they're parts of series which collectively garnered more votes. Anyway, Morrowind, our winner at number 3, is an open-world action role-playing game and is the third instalment in the Elder Scrolls series, following the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall. The main story takes place on Vardenfell, an island in the Dunmer Dark Elf province of Morrowind, part of the continent of Tamriel. The central quest concerns the deity Dagoth-Ur, housed within the volcanic Red Mountain, who seeks to gain power and break Morrowind free from Imperial reign. Although primarily a fantasy game, with many gameplay elements and Western medieval and fantasy fiction tropes inspired by Dungeons & Dragons and the previous RPGs, it also features some steampunk elements and drew much inspiration from Middle Eastern and East Asian art, architecture and cultures. Morrowind was designed with an open-ended, freeform style of gameplay in mind, with less of an emphasis on the main plot than its predecessors. Morrowind was well received by critics and was congratulated most frequently for its breadth of scope, the richness of its visuals, and the freedom it worked into its design. The game environment of Morrowind was applauded as large and richly detailed, particularly for its real-time weather effects, day-night cycle, and its great variety of plant and animal life. One element about Morrowind that received particular and near universal criticism was the game's journal system. In Morrowind, the player has a journal which automatically updates with information from time to time, following conversations with NPCs and important developments in the plot. Each new entry follows all of those previously. Though reviewers commended the general interface for its relative ease of use, the journal was almost universally reviled. The journal was found to quickly become a muddled mess, hundreds of pages long, without any useful method of organisation by quest title or completion level. In spite of its critical and commercial success, Morrowind did not win any end-of-year press awards for its Xbox release. At number 2, Fable and Fable The Lost Chapters by Microsoft Game Studios in 2004 and 2008, with 132 votes. Fable is the first in the Fable series, and was developed for the Xbox, Microsoft Windows and Mac OS X by Big Blue Box Studios, a satellite developer of Lionhead Studios, and is a role-playing game where players control their character from a third-person perspective. The main character, known as the Hero of Oakville, can interact with people and objects as well as battle foes. The goal of Fable is to complete missions called quests that advance the game's plot, but Fable also features optional quests and allows players to pursue actions not directly tied to story completion. Fable received positive reviews from both audiences and critics, and the game won more than 50 awards, to become the Xbox's fastest selling game up to that point. Although the short length of the main plot was criticised by reviewers, but many overlooked this due to the much larger array of side quests available to the player. One of the complaints that arose upon the release of Fable was the fact that it failed to include features that Peter Molyneux had mentioned while the game was still in development. The Lost Chapters features all the content found in the original Fable, as well as additional new content such as new monsters, weapons, alignment-based spells, items, armour, towns, buildings and expressions. And at number 1, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2 The Sith Lords, by BioWare in 2003 and Obsidian Entertainment in 2004, with 145 votes. I feel as if I've talked about KOTOR too much already, but it's a stone cold classic. The story of Knights of the Old Republic takes place almost 4,000 years before the formation of the Galactic Empire, where Darth Malak, a Dark Lord of the Sith, has unleashed a Sith armada against the Republic. The player character, as a Jedi, must venture to different planets in the galaxy to defeat Malak. Players choose from 3 character classes and customise their characters at the beginning of the game, and engage in round-based combat against enemies. Through interacting with other characters and making plot decisions, the alignment system will determine whether the player's character aligns with the light or dark side of the Force. The system is based upon the Star Wars RPG by Wizards of the Coast, itself based on the 3rd edition rules for Dungeons & Dragons, and emulates the system behind the scenes in real-time combat, although it allows you to pause to queue up actions and issue commands to followers. Experience is gained mainly through combat, and the player can level up, increasing skills and attributes and gaining feats which allow special attacks and weapon specialisation. After its release on July 15, 2003, the first Xbox shipment of Knights of the Old Republic sold out within 4 days on the shelves, which amounted to 250,000 sales during that period. This made it the console's fastest ever seller at the time of its launch, eventually leading to total sales of 3.2 million copies. A sequel was released in the form of Knights of the Old Republic 2 The Sith Lords, which starts 5 years after the events of the first game and follows the story of the Exile, a Jedi Knight who was exiled from the Jedi Order. During this time, the Jedi Order has been almost completely wiped out by the Sith. The game begins with the protagonist waking up from unconsciousness on an asteroid mining facility. After he or she escapes with the help of their party members, they find the person who exiled them 10 years ago, who sends the protagonist on a mission to seek out the remaining Jedi to fight against the Sith. The game's critical reception upon its release was generally positive. Praise was given to the story, characters and writing, which were noted to be more grey than the original Knights of the Old Republic. Particular praise was given to one of the game's party members, Kreia, with the GameSpy naming her the best video game character of 2005. However, the game received criticism for being too similar to its predecessor in terms of graphics and gameplay systems, and it emerged in the months afterward that there were a large number of bugs, and that much content had been cut from the game. Due to the missing content still being on the Xbox discs, it has now been restored in fan-made patches, and a full version of the game can be downloaded and played, and is a true classic. Well, that's it for our top 5 RPGs on the original Xbox. So what did you think? Should we let each game stand on its own merits, and Morrowind should have reigned supreme on this list? Or should we keep bundling series together and rating them on their combined popularity? If we'd done the former, then the order of this list would have only been slightly different, with Morrowind moving up to the top spot, and Dark Alliance and KOTOR both just dropping one single place. But anyway, please let us know your thoughts in the comment below, or by getting in touch through email or the website. So, as always, many thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like what we're doing, but most of all, you look after yourselves. And we'll catch you later. Bye.